නව ඩොමෙක්ස් පැල්ලම් සහ විසබීජ අවම කර දින 3ක් දක්වා ටොයිලට් එක ෆ්‍රෙෂ්ව තමයි. ඩොමෙක්ස්.
Tonight, single demand. Sri Lanka shuts down for the day after over 2,000 trade unions launched the biggest hartal since 1953. Coming colours. Former Premier Ranil Wickremesinghe warns of severe consequences if parliamentary squabbles continue as protesters block exits. Making sure the Health Ministry approves the 4th COVID vaccine dose for the immunocompromised from Monday. Under pressure, Sri Lanka's exporters are losing confidence in the industry's outlook, says the latest export barometer survey. All this and much more coming up tonight on First at 9, this Friday, the 6th of May 2022.
Clear Ice Cool Menthol is horrible තොර ලස්සන කෙස් කලබක් ලබා දෙයි. Clear සමගින් දැන් zero dandruff.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Bringing you the latest from across the island, this is First at 9 and I'm Nick Ebert. Now, an island-wide single-day hartal was launched by over 2,000 trade unions this morning, calling for the government and the president to resign. The action, which is the largest of its kind in Sri Lanka since 1953, saw the entire country come to a grinding halt, with public transport, government offices shut down. The country's export sector also felt the hit today, as employees at the export processing zone in Katunayaka too decided to join in as well. With the economic crisis in the country getting deeper day by day, the public have become more agitated due to their inability to bear the double burdens of rising living costs and a lack of essential goods. With protests having continued island-wide for over a month now and no response from the government so far, the reaction from the people seems to be getting stronger. This morning, over 2,000 government, semi-government and private sector trade unions engaged in a show of countrywide dissent. This is considered to be the largest hartal campaign the country has experienced since 1953. However, there seems to be a divide between the unions, with several of them, including those aligned with the ruling Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna, choosing not to be a part of it. In any case, despite their lack of enthusiasm, the island-wide strike saw the country's most important sectors grind to a halt today. This included roadside shops and restaurants, who remained closed in response to the calls of their respective unions. The hardest blow, however, came from the transportation sector that saw a major shortage of public transport options today, with private bus owners choosing to take their fleets off the streets. With only Sri Lanka Transport Board buses plying the streets today, there was a rush by regular bus commuters in the early morning. Compounding this was the decision by the Railway Trade Union Alliance, consisting of over 40 unions, to support the hartal and halt all train operations. Further, vital government officers such as the Department of Registration of Persons too abstained from work today as well. Meanwhile, at the Bandaranaike International Airport, employees of the Department of Immigration and Immigration withdrew from providing services for arrivals at the airport's VIP lounge. Members of the Nidas Sevaka Sangamaya Sri Lankan Airlines branch also joined the action as well.
සාමාන්‍ය මගින්ටුවක් කිසිදු බාධාවක් නැතුව අපි අපගේ සේවාවන් පවත්වනවා. අපි VIP එකේදී දේශීය ප්‍රභූන්ට පමණයි මේක ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන්නේ. කිසිදු විදේශීය මගියෙකුට එහෙම නැත්නම් විදේශීය ප්‍රභූවරයෙකුට මෙහි බලපෑමක් සිද්ධ වෙන්නේ නැහැ.
රටේ ජනතාව පොලිමේ තිබු අය ගුවන්තොටුපළින් ගුවන්ගත වෙනකොටත් පොලිමේ එන්න. සාමාන්‍ය ගුවන් මගින් වගේ පොලිමේ ඇවිල්ලා තමන් සාමාන්‍ය ගුවන් මගින් විදියට ඒ චෙකින් වෙලා ඒ ඉමිග්‍රේෂන් කටයුතු කරගෙන ඒ විදියට යන්න අපි තවදුරටත් ඔවුන් ප්‍රභූන් විදියට සලකන්න ලෑස්ති නැහැ.
Meanwhile, factory operations at the Katanaika Export Processing Zone also came to a standstill as employee trade unions held protests in support of the Hartal. Further, several trade unions at the country's power supplier, the Ceylon Electricity Board, also joined in the Hartal today, while accusing the government of being responsible for the present power crisis. Meanwhile, last evening, the Ceylon Teachers Union also invited all teachers to refrain from education activities. As a result, more schools were vacant today. In the meantime, most economic centres in the country also remain closed as well. Meanwhile, senior police media spokesperson Senior DIG Ajit Rohana warned that legal action will be taken against anyone attempting to force others to participate in the Hartal after reports emerged of groups pressuring businessmen and individuals to do so. He also said that the police respects the right of the people to enjoy rights and freedoms guaranteed by the Constitution and added that they will not be impeded in any way. Former Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe said today that he is under threat following remarks made by Ilanke Tamil Arasukachi parliamentarian Shanakian Rasamanikam in Parliament, accusing him of having sided with the government during the vote for the Deputy Speaker yesterday. Speaking further, the former Premier warned the House that the people are keeping a close eye on them as continued squabbles in Parliament, and if no solution is forthcoming for the country's problems, the worst is yet to come for the country's politicians.
රාසමානික්කම් මන්තුමා මං ගැන වැරදි ප්‍රකාශ කළා තිබුණා. මම රාජපක්ෂ කණ්ඩායමේ ඉන්නවා කියලා. මම රාජපක්ෂල කිසි දවසක හිටියේ නෑ. රාජපක්ෂවරු ප්‍රභාකරන් එක පැක්ට් එකක් දැම්ම මාව පරද්දන්න. ඒත් මං රාසමානික්කම් මන්තුතුමා ගැන මං කියන්න ඕනේ මෙතෙන්ට දානවා 2013 පෙබ්‍රවරි 21 වෙනිදා මහින්ද රාජපක්ෂ මැතිතුමාගෙන් එතුමා බාරගත්තා පදිරිප්පු සංවිධායකකම. ඒ නිසා මම නෙමෙයි. ඒ කාලෙත් මම ගියේ නෑ. එතුමාට පුරුදු වෙලා ඇති සමහර විට මහින්ද සරණං ගච්ඡාමි, බැසිල් සරණං ගච්ඡාමි, නාමල් සරණං ගච්ඡාමි කියන්නේ. මං ඒක එහෙම කළා නෑ. ඉතින් කරුණා කළා මට ඒක කියන්න යන්න එපා. මං කනගාටු වෙනවා. මොකද ඊට පස්සේ එතුමා එකතු වෙලා දැන් මගේ ගෙදර වටලන්න කියලා අද වටේ යනවා. මං ඒක විශේෂයෙන්ම පෙන්වන්නම්. Rupa Vasa planning protesting outside Ranil's house on 5th lane on Saturday 9 am. Meet up near Ladies College. මේ Ladies College එක ළඟ කවුරුවත් රැස් වෙන්නේ නෑ. ඔතන රැස් වෙන්නේ Ladies College එකේ ආදි ශිෂ්‍යාවන් විතරයි. ඉතින් මේ කළා තියෙන අරුණි W ඒ වගේම කිෂාන් කරුණාරත්න වගේ කණ්ඩායම් මෙතෙන්ට එකතු කරන්න හදන්නේ. මේ සෙල්ලමින් ඊට පස්සේ බලනවා රාසමානික්කම් මන්ත්‍රීතුමත් මේකට සම්බන්ධයි. මෙහෙම පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ කතාවක් කරාම ඒක තර්ජනය ලක් කරන එක වැරදි. තව එක කාරණයක් කියන්න ඕනේ. ඊයේ ඇති වුණේ සිද්ධිය දවල් ඇත්ත වශයෙන්ම ඒක දිහා බැලුවාම මිනිස්සු කියලා තියෙන දේ මේ මුළු පාර්ලිමේන්තුවටම සාප කරනවා. අපි මේ දවසත් නාස්ති කරා කියලා. අපි නිකන් ගහ ගන්නවා අපේ ප්‍රශ්න ආණ්ඩුවයි විපක්ෂය ගහ ගන්නවා විපක්ෂය ගහ ගන්නවා. අද අපි දිහා බලාගෙන ඉන්නේ. මොකද්ද මිනිස්සුගේ ප්‍රශ්න? අපි එන හැම තැනම ඩීසල් නැහැ. ගන්න මුදල් නැහැ. ආහාර නැහැ. අපි දන්නේ ජූනි මාසෙට මොකද්ද තත්ත්වය කියලා. බැරිද මේ සභාවට ඒක හොයලා දෙන්න? අපි මොකුත් කළා නැහැ. මේ කාල සීමාව තුලදී අපි නිකන් කතා කරා, අපි මඩ ගැහුවා, එච්චරයි අපි මේ සභාවේ කරලා තියෙන්නේ. අපි මෙතෙන්ට ඇවිල්ලා නිකන් කෑ ගහලා කතා කරලා යනවනම් මිනිස්සු අපිව පණ්ඩලා මේක වට කරන එක සාධාරණයි කියලා මම මෙතන කියන්න කැමතියි.
උදෑසන මම පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ නැති වෙලාවේ ගරු හිටපු අග්‍රාමාත්‍යතුමා රනිල් වික්‍රමසිංහ මන්ත්‍රීතුමා මං ගැන ප්‍රකාශයක් කරලා තිබ්බා. ඒ ප්‍රකාශයේ එතුමා පෞද්ගලිකව මං ගැන චෝදනා කළා තිනවා. ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂයේ මම සංවිධායකවරයෙක් වශයෙන් 2013 හිටියා කියන එක මම පබ්ලික් එකේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේම කියලා තියෙනවා. ඒක හංගන රහසක් නෙවෙයි. මම මේ මිනිමරුවත් එක්ක හිටියා කියන එක සමාවත් ඉල්ලනවා කියලා මම පාර්ලිමේන්තුවේ කියලා තියෙනවා. ඒක අලුත් රහසක් නෙවෙයි එතුමාට කියන්න. ඒ වගේම තමයි එතුමා කියලා තිබ්බා මම මහින්ද සරණං ගච්ඡාමි, බැසිල් සරණං ගච්ඡාමි, නාමල් සරණං ගච්ඡාමි කියලා කියනවා කියලා. ඇත්තටම මට තරුණ මන්ත්‍රීවරයෙක් එතුමා 5 වාරක් මේ රටේ හිටපු අගමැතිවරයෙක් නිසා මම එතුමාට මම පෞද්ගලිකව මම ප්‍රහාර එල්ල ගන්න කැමති නැහැ. මට ප්‍රහාර එල්ල ගන්න ගියොත් එමත් දවසම මදි වෙනවා එතුමාට ප්‍රහාර එල්ල ගන්න. මම එකම ප්‍රශ්න දෙකක් අහන්න කැමතියි. එතුමාට මේ රටේ ජනතාව 2015 දී එතුමාට ලබා දුන්න ජනවර්ම හරහා එතුමා අර්ජුන් මහේන්ද්‍රන් මහත්තයාව මේ රටේ මහ බැංකුවේ අධිපති කරලා ඒ මුදල් වංචා කරපු මිනිස්සයා දැන් අද කොහෙද ඉන්නේ කියන එක පුළුවන් නම් හොයලා සභාගත කරන්න කියලා මම එතුමාගෙන් පළවෙනි ඉල්ලීම කරනවා. ඒ වගේම තමයි පහුගිය සතියේ අපි දැක්ක කෝප් කමිටුවේදී මහජන බැංකුවේ අදටත් බොල් ණය තියෙනවා බිලියන 3.5ක් ඇලොයිසියස් කියන පුද්ගලයාගේ මේ මෙන්ඩිස් සමාගමට එතුමාගේ ඥාතියාගේ සනින්ලෝ ඒ දේවල් පුළුවන් නම් සභාගත කරන්න කියලා මම එතුමාගේ ඉල්ලා සිටිනවා. ඉතින් ඇත්තටම මම වැඩි වෙලා එතුමා ගැන විවේචනය කරන්න කැමති නෑ. එතුමා මේ රටේ මේ අද තියෙන තත්ත්වයට එතුමත් කාරණයක්. එතුමත් මේකට වග කියන්නේ නෑ. අද ජනතාව එතුමාගේ ජනවර්ම හරහා එතුමාට මිනිස්සු ආයේ ගෝ හෝම් රනිල් කියලා කියන්නේ නැහැ. මොකද එතුමාව ගෙදර ඇරියා. එතුමා ජාතික ලැයිස්තුවේ මේ පාර්ලිමේන්තුවට ඒක නිසා මම වැඩිපුර කියන්නේ. ඒ වගේම තමයි අද උදේ තව අරුණි කවුද කියලා Twitter එකේ දාලා තියනවලු එතුමාගේ ගේ වට කරන්න කියලා. මම කරා කියලා කියනවා. අනේ දෙයියනේ මම මඩකලපුව දිස්ත්‍රික්කේ ඉඳන් මට ඇවිල්ලා කොළඹ එතුමාගේ 5 රෝඩ් එක වට කරන්න තරම් සෙනගක් ගේන්න පුළුවන් නම් එතුමා අවුරුදු 5 වරක් අගමැති හිටවිට කෙනාගේ හිතලා එතුමා බය නිකන් පෞද්ගලිකව මඩ ගහනවා නම් මඩ ගහන්න එපා. හැබැයි රටේ ජනතාවට කියන්නේ අවුරුදු 31 මට 5 වරක් අගමැති බය වෙනවා නම් රටේ ජනතාවගේ අවුරුදු 31 මේ තරුණ ජනතාවට මේ මිනිස්සු රටේ ආණ්ඩුව බය වෙනවා. මේ රටේ අරගලයට ජය වේවා බය නැතුව අරගලය කරන්න දිගටම කරන්න කියන එක තමයි මට අන්තිමේ.
Now, protesters from the Inter-University Students' Federation have withdrawn from the protest near Parliament today until the next Parliament sittings on the 17th of May after police used water cannons and tear gas to disperse them. Meanwhile, a new protest village has been set up near the Parliament complex and has been christened Horu Gogama. Last evening, the Inter-University Students' Federation launched a protest near the Parliament complex at Polduva Junction, urging the President and the government to resign immediately. Although the police attempted to disperse the youth with the aid of tear gas last evening, they however settled close to the Parliament access road and set up another protest site, this time christening it Horu Gogama. However, once again this afternoon, when university students were engaged in their protest near the police barricade, tear gas and water cannons were fired by the police in an attempt to disperse them. Following this incident, the convener of the Inter-University Students' Federation, Vasanta Mudrige, said that the protesters near Parliament will withdraw until the next sitting of Parliament, which is on the 17th of May. Further, another public protest in Madivela led to the blockage of the road leading towards the parliamentarians' official housing complex today. The protest also affected vehicular movement from the Pitakoti junction towards Talawatugoda and Palavatta. In other protests in the vicinity of Parliament, a group of protesters used their underwear to express their objections to the President and the government. The protesters were seen decorating the police barricades with their underwear. Meanwhile, at Golfes Green, the anti-government protests worked off as usual in a peaceful manner, but with a much larger public participation today. The demonstration has now reached its 28th day and shows no sign of abating. In the meantime, the police have requested the Colombo magistrate to issue an order preventing any obstructions at the entrance of the presidential secretariat, with the case set to be taken up next Tuesday, the 10th of May. Meanwhile, in Kalpiti, protests near temple trees seems to also continue unaffected for the 12th day, despite loudspeakers playing continuous spirit chants. In the meantime, more protests calling on the government to resign also worked off today in different areas of the country. And we'll be back with more stories right after this short break. Do stay with us.
Big 3.
Welcome back. Now, the epidemiology unit at the Ministry of Health has decided to offer a fourth vaccine dose or a second booster dose to the public from Monday onwards. Health Minister Professor Chandra Jayasumana explained that it will be offered to people over the age of 60, as well as those suffering from chronic illnesses between the age of 20 and 60. As for everyone else, he says that you won't be forced to get it, but you can if you want a little bit of extra protection. At present, Sri Lankans have been enjoying limitless freedoms with no areas under isolation or curfew due to the spread of COVID-19. This control of the virus has been achieved after a long struggle with adequate safety protocols and a comprehensive vaccination program, which has been the game changer. Out of the 22 million population of Sri Lanka, over 17 million people have received first doses, while 14 million have received 2. Further, nearly 8 million people have received a third shot as well. However, now, the epidemiology unit says that it has also decided to offer a fourth dose or the second booster dose to the public to provide further protection from the virus. Speaking at a Department of Government Information media briefing today, Minister of Health Professor Chandra Jayasumana explained who will receive priority in administering the fourth dose.
යනවා අවුරුදු 60ට වැඩි සියලු දෙනාටම හතරවෙනි මාත්‍රාවක් COVID-19 රෝගයට ලබා දීම සඳහා නිර්දේශ ලැබිලා තියෙනවා. යනවා අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා ලබන සඳුදා දිනේ ඉඳන් මේ වැඩපිළිවෙල දියත් කරන්න. ඒත් එක්කම අවුරුදු 20ත් 60ත් අතර කාණ්ඩේ ඌන ප්‍රතිශක්තිය තියෙන අයට ඒ වගේම විවිධ නිදන්ගත ආබාධ තියෙන අයටත් මේ අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම ගන්න කියලා නිර්දේශ කරලා තියෙනවා. අවුරුදු 20ත් 60ත් අතර කාණ්ඩේ අපි බලකිරීමක් කරන්නේ නැහැ. කෙනෙක් කැමති නම් ඔහුට හොයයට හතරවෙනි මාත්‍රාව ලබා ගන්න පුළුවන්කම තියෙනවා. හැබැයි තුන්වෙනි මාත්‍රාව අරගෙන අඩුම ගානේ මාස 3ක් කල් ගත වෙලා තියෙනවා.
Speaking further, Professor Jayasumana also explained the administration of a second dose to children aged between 12 and 16 years, which the epidemiology unit has also green-lighted now. So far, only a single vaccine dose has been administered to this age group.
අවුරුදු 12-16 කාණ්ඩයටත් දෙවනි මාත්‍රාව ලබා දීමට අප කටයුතු යොදනවා. විශේෂයෙන්ම මෙහිදී විශේෂඥ කමිටුව දක්වලා තියෙනවා. ඊටාම කලාතුරකින් මේ ෆයිසර් වර්ගයේ එන්නත ලබාගත් තරුණ උදවියට හෘදයේ යම් ආසාදන තත්ත්වයක් දක්නට ලැබිලා තියෙනවා. ඊටාම දුර්ලභ වශයෙන්. ඒක නිසා ඒ අවදානම යම් විදිහකට අවධානයට යොමු කරලා තියෙන නිසා අවුරුදු 12-16 කාණ්ඩේ පාසල් සිසුන් එන්නත දෙවනි මාත්‍රාව ලබාගෙන සති දෙකක කාලයක් තදබල ශාරීරික වෙහෙසවීම නොකළ යුතුයි කියන නිර්දේශයට යටත්ව තමයි මේ එන්නත ලබා ගන්න අපිට නිර්දේශ කරලා තියෙන්නේ.
Now, the weekly cost for a family of 4 for a regular basket of food items has increased by approximately 560 rupees due to a 14% rise in retail prices. The rise has even beaten out global prices, which have not increased as fast as prices in Sri Lanka. The retail price of food has recorded an increase of 14% from March 2022 to April 2022, according to the Batkari indicator, a tool that tracks the prices of common food items included into regular rice packets in the country. This constitutes a year-on-year increase of 49%. According to the indicator, the increase has been driven primarily by prices of dal and summer rice being the highest recorded by the indicator. A kilo of dal in April 2021 was 178 rupees. However, a year later, it now costs 466 rupees. Further, a kilo of samba rice in April 2021 was retailed at 130 rupees, but a year later it now costs 210 rupees. This indicates that with food prices increasing at such a rapid rate, the weekly cost for a family of 4 for the indicator's basket of food would be approximately 560 rupees higher now. The report says that this drastic increase in food prices in 2022 is a result of macroeconomic instability within the country. It adds that although global prices have increased due to the pandemic and issues with supply chains remain, global prices have not increased as fast as prices in Sri Lanka. It also adds that the impact on supply chains from the lack of foreign exchange has been exacerbated by consistent import restrictions that have led to shortages. These shortages, meanwhile, have been compounded by the rapid depreciation of the rupee, which has contributed to food prices rising faster and faster in 2022. Now, the European Union is set to provide a sum of 200,000 euros in humanitarian funding to support around 80,000 low-income families across all 25 districts of the island. Priority is to be given to the most in need, such as expectant mothers, children, the disabled, women-headed households, and people who have become vulnerable due to the crisis. The European Union is to provide a sum of 200,000 euros or more than 74 million rupees in humanitarian funding for essential assistance to 80,000 low-income families across all 25 districts of Sri Lanka. In an announcement on the delegation's website, it observes that as the current political and economic crisis has resulted in shortages of essential commodities, including medicines, this has reduced the ability of thousands of families to cater for their basic needs. This has led to many children seeing their education disrupted due to power cuts and lack of stationery items as well, it adds. The EU funding is expected to go towards supporting affected families with multi-purpose cash grants that will help with first aid, medical supplies, and school packs for children. Further, priority is to be given to the most in need, such as expectant mothers, children, the disabled, women-headed households, and people who have become vulnerable due to the crisis. The funding is part of the EU's overall contribution to the Disaster Relief Emergency Fund of the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies. Commenting on the donation, EU Ambassador in Sri Lanka Denny Chaibi stated that the relief assistance is crucial for the most vulnerable people in the country, and by addressing the current needs now, the EU will try to minimize the impact that a deteriorating economy will continue to have on people's lives. Now, the government of Bangladesh has dispatched medicines worth $2.3 million that includes 56 types of essential medicines to Sri Lanka. The shipment is expected to reach the island in the next few days. The government of Bangladesh has confirmed the donation of $2.3 million worth of 56 types of essential medicines to Sri Lanka. The token handover ceremony for the emergency medical supplies was held in Dhaka, where Bangladeshi Foreign Minister A.K. Abdul Momen and Health Minister Zahid Malik handed over boxes of medicines to Sri Lanka's High Commissioner in Bangladesh, Sudarshan D.S. Seniviratna. The Bangladeshi Foreign Minister labelled the supply of medicine as a gesture of solidarity and friendship between the two nations, at a time when they celebrate 50 years of diplomatic relations. He added that under the able leadership of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina, Bangladesh will not hesitate to extend assistance to any nation facing difficulties, in particular to its neighbours, for ensuring shared peace and prosperity in the South Asian region. He also assured that Bangladesh stands ready to support Sri Lanka in all possible ways. Bangladesh's state-owned pharmaceuticals company Essential Drugs Company Limited and the Bangladesh Association of Pharmaceuticals Industries each contributed medicines worth 100 million takas as gifts to Sri Lanka, the Bangladesh Foreign Ministry statement added. The statement also said that the shipment is expected to reach Sri Lanka in a few days' time. Meanwhile, India's Dravida Munnetra Kazhagam members of parliament plan to donate 1 month's salary towards aid for crisis-hit Sri Lanka, the party has said in an official statement. This follows an appeal from Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin, who also president of the ruling DMK, for donations to help the Sri Lankan people, even as the party has already announced 10 million Indian rupees towards this purpose. A party statement yesterday said that the DMK's Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha MPs will contribute their 1 month's salary to the Chief Minister's Public Relief Fund. Stalin on Tuesday appealed to the people to donate to the Tamil Nadu government to buy essentials such as food and ship it to Sri Lanka to help its people who are battling the impact of a battered economy. Now, fuel queues seem to have grown even longer outside filling stations due to the limited availability of fuel in the country. The only hope on the horizon are shipments expected to arrive under the $200 million extended credit facility from India and a $500 billion credit line that is currently being negotiated for.
Earlier this week, Finance Minister Ali Sabri revealed in Parliament that the country's usable foreign reserves has come down to less than $50 million. This amount is not sufficient to import even a single fuel shipment. With that being the case, the only relief to the country is the 200 million extended credit facility that will bring about 4 fuel shipments to the country. If the $500 million second credit facility is approved by India, that will provide relief for another 2 months. Until that comes about, people continue to struggle to fill up their tanks with the limited amount of fuel available in filling stations. By now, what can be witnessed is that the queues for fuel have even grown further on the past few days. As usual, some filling stations remain closed during the day as well due to lack of fuel. In the meantime, a video circulates on social media showing a fuel sample obtained from a Ceylon Petroleum Corporation bowser that arrived at a filling station in Narammala with water mixed in it. With regard to this incident, CPC said that the bowser has been brought back to the terminal in Kolonnawa and necessary investigations have been launched into the incident.
A clash was reported last night between a group of people and police at the Palamuna roadblock in Akkarepattu, resulting in injuries to 11 police personnel and 1 civilian. Police spokesman SSP Nihal Talduwa says that the incident came about after a suspect crashed his motorcycle during a traffic stop at a checkpoint while trying to flee.
Last night, police personnel on duty at a checkpoint in Palamune had observed a motorcyclist travelling at high speed towards Akkarepattu from Kalmune and reportedly without a crash helmet on as well. However, when ordered to stop, the motorcyclist had ignored police commands and attempted to speed past the checkpoint when he suddenly lost control of the bike and crashed. Subsequently, the motorcyclist, a 39-year-old resident of Adalat, Chennai, had been admitted to the Akkarepattu hospital for treatment. Angered by this incident, residents of the Palamuna area had arrived at the police checkpoint and has proceeded to damage the police post and set fire to it while assaulting a police sergeant and civil security force personnel on duty at the time. Police spokesperson SSP Nihal Talduwa said that on being notified of the incident, the Akkarepattu OIC and several other officers had arrived at the location and that they too were assaulted by the angry mob numbering around 700 to 800. Further, an ASP and several other officers who had arrived at the location too had been assaulted by the group, during which time one of the police officers was forced to open fire with his service pistol to control situation as he was being assaulted. SSP Talduwa further revealed that one civilian, a 31-year-old resident of Palamuna, had been injured in the shooting and that he too was admitted to the Akkarepattu hospital. In addition, 8 police officers and 3 civil security force personnel have also sustained injuries resulting from the incident and are receiving treatment at the Akkarepattu and Ampara hospitals. Furthermore, a police team led by an ASP has been appointed by the senior DIG in charge of Eastern Province to investigate the incident.
Now, Sri Lanka's exporters are losing confidence in the industry's outlook as firms face mounting challenges posed by increasing local and global economic risks. This includes issues faced by large SME and women-owned firms who have had to deal with rising costs of transport and logistics, domestic regulatory barriers, and delays in sourcing raw materials. In the latest Export Barometer survey for the February to March 2022 period, compiled by the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce and the United States Agency for International Development, it shows that Sri Lanka's exporters are losing confidence in the industry's outlook as firms face mounting challenges posed by increasing local and global economic risks. This includes issues faced by large SME and women-owned firms who have had to deal with rising costs of transport and logistics, domestic regulatory barriers, and delays in sourcing raw materials. Exporters have also cited challenges in accessing trade and export finance as a major issue as well. These issues have been compounded by a shortage of foreign exchange in the country that a majority of the firms surveyed, particularly SMEs, who say have led to questions about their ability to export in the future due to delays or losses in suppliers resulting from this. Further, only 60% of firms have found new export opportunities compared to 75% in the previous survey for the October to September period last year. However, 62% of SMEs and 50% of women-owned or led businesses found new opportunities in the current survey compared to 60% and 17% respectively in the previous one. Meanwhile, the report also observed a fall in confidence in export outlook compared to the previous survey, expecting an economic contraction in the next 6 months, echoing the previous survey's sentiments on the economic outlook. However, firms continue to be optimistic about the outlook for export growth in their businesses, with growth being driven by the higher unit price for their exports. In addition, 38% of exporters highlighted that they are considering cost-cutting measures such as reduction in hiring and freezing contract or part-time employment due to the ongoing economic climate. And with that, that's all we have for you tonight. Good night.